How's it going, YouTube? My name is Ninja7, your resident Mistweaver monk, and guys, you have been waiting for this video. Today we're going to talk about 10.2 and how Mistweaver is looking in Mythic Plus. Now, before we get into it, I want to make a quick disclaimer. This is based on PTR testing, which I have done probably at this point too much of, but PTR numbers are always subject to change. There are things that one-shot you that don't make it into the game, that don't one-shot you when they make it live. There are things that don't one-shot you or don't even hurt you that end up one-shotting you once they make it live. So take everything about the numbers and things with a grain of salt, because things are subject to change. But as for Mistweaver, yes, some things still might be scaled or tuned a little bit, but for the most part, this is what we're going to be seeing make it into the game in 10.2. So what's the structure of this video going to be like? Well, I'll have some gameplay footage of some of the dungeons going on behind me, but what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the strengths and the weaknesses that Mistweaver has kind of historically had, or at least in recent history had, in Mythic Plus, and talk about some of the changes that are coming in 10.2 and if they work toward helping those strengths get stronger or weaknesses get stronger themselves. And let's go ahead and kick it off with some of our notable weaknesses. So as a Mistweaver, what are things that you just cannot put up with, or things that just hurt you? Some of the big things are fixates. There's a lot of moments in Mythic Plus dungeons when a lot's going on in a pack and then something fixates you and you just have to move out. Now, fortunately, there are a lot less fixates coming in 10.2 in the current dungeon pool than what's in live right now. Now, most notably, Dragonflight Healer can get lost because that would actually one-shot you. If you don't move out in time, which is almost instantly, then it will one-shot you. And those fixates that one-shot you are always difficult for us because we're in melee. We're in melee ideally 100% of the time, and having to move out, we just lose a lot of healing if we have to move out, and especially if they are fast moving fixates. But also it's just the risk of us staying in melee and then something randomly fixating. It's a big weakness for us, but luckily that is being slightly mitigated because there are, like I said, a lot less fixates. And from what I've noticed in the PTR, these fixates don't even one-shot you. They kind of remind me of the Underrot fixate, where you can kind of face tank it if you really want to, if you pop a defensive especially, or if you have, well, in 10.1.7 some healing elixir charges ready, you can just like face tank it. Whereas in Dragonhide, if you face tank one hit, you're dead, especially in higher keys. But so that is something that we don't have to worry as much about. Now, speaking of fixates that one shot, let's talk about our next major weakness, and that is just being one shot. A reason why, or one of the reasons why you don't see Mistweavers historically taken in super high keys is because we just die. I mean, we literally just die to some things that don't kill other healers, and that's a part of the big reason for what pushes a healer meta. One of the tick boxes that you have to be able to check is, can you survive the content? If not, then you're just not going to be taken seriously, and then that effect will trickle down to lower key levels. Well, we have some good news here, and we will get more into this when we get down to the good changes, or the changes that are happening coming into 10.2. But things that one-shot you still likely will one-shot you, but we have been given a couple more tools in our arsenal that could help in that sense. But this next weakness kind of plays off of that last one, and it is just that our cooldowns, our defensive cooldowns, are just not super strong. I mean, we have some of the weaker cooldowns. I mean, Fortifying Brew, you have to take a second talent to get it down to a 4-minute cooldown, and when you press it, you only gain 20% more health, and then reducing your damage taken by 20%. Now, yes, it does last 15 seconds, but how often do you need that? How often do you need a minor mitigation that lasts 15 seconds? It's kind of one of the weakest cooldowns, and it's probably super weak because of how the other monk specs use it. However, we do have two slightly stronger defensives in Dampen Harm. Well, ideally it's stronger, and then Diffuse Magic, and then recently they've made some changes, or I guess semi-recently they've made some changes to make Yu'lon's Grace more competitive. So these are real defensives, especially diffuse magic. I mean, a 1.5 minute cooldown and a 2 minute cooldown are much, much more competitive. And the fact that you only have to waste one talent point on them is just, like I said, much more competitive. The problem is that they both have stipulations. Now, diffuse magics, as long as you are comfortable with the content and know what damage sources are magical, this is easily the most powerful defensive because it will always give you 60% mitigation as long as it's magical damage, which, like I said, knowledge will fix that, or play testing dungeons after you've run a dungeon a couple times, you know when diffuse magic works. It also can dispel yourself from certain harmful effects and put them back on the user. So just a very powerful defensive. However, dampen harm, it doesn't really have as many applications. This only gets its full value on things that, like I said, would one-shot you. Now, like I just said, things do one-shot you as a Mistweaver. However, how often do you pop a defensive when you just know that there's going to be incoming, minor amounts of damage, or when you get something targeting you or something like that, where you know it's not going to kill you, but it's going to do a good bit of damage? Dampen harm just loses value there. So it's kind of on the weaker end of the defensive tree, or of the defensive talents. We also have Calming Presence. Now, this is just passive damage mitigation, and this, I'll go ahead and spoil it out. I was going to talk about this during the changes, but this is getting changed. It's basically getting doubled. We just have 6% damage mitigation for free, basically. I mean, we always take this. It's honestly a good change. Yes, it was only buffed from 3 to 6%, but I can't, express how much that is. It's just 3% damage that you're at all points in time going to be taking less. So 3% damage on top of when you pop a defensive, or when you don't pop a defensive, you're just going to be a lot tankier. It's going to save you from having to heal yourself more. It's very good, and it works well with one of the other changes that we're going to be getting into. However, across the board as a whole, when you compare our defensives to other classes' defensives, we just are on the weaker end, and that is still a big issue. I do think that changes like this are great, but like I said, there's just going to need to be a little bit more change in our defensive department for this weakness to be filled, but we'll get into that. So enough negativity, let's go and talk about some of our strengths. What makes Mistweaver actually good and actually competitive, which, yes, they are. Mistweavers are very competitive in Mythic Plus. It's just not played often. Well, number one is our cooldowns. Our cooldown rotation, ever since they added Shayloon's Gift into the game, is just amazing. We have Shayloon's Gift on a 40-second cooldown, or a 40-second recharge at its max value, but you can use it before then just for lesser value. So like 36 seconds, you can use it for almost full value. It's kind of like that Pokemon move, Magnitude. A Magnitude 8 still hurts. A Shayloon's Gift with 8 stacks still pumps healing. And then we also have Chi-Ji, which just, once you master this ability, it does insane throughput in Mythic Plus. If you have at least 3 targets, you're able to stand on your Phaline, and you come into your Chi-Ji with your Tiger Palms stacked, you not only will get a massive shield as soon as you press this button, everyone in the party, but then as soon as that damage hits, if you blackout kick or save your blackout kick until that damage hits, you'll get ideally up to 48 mastery procs, full powered mastery procs. If everyone has an essence font, all the stars align, you can just get that, just a huge massive burst heal. And then this, you can get it on a 1 minute cooldown. So our cooldowns are not weak. The only one that kind of is weak is Revival, but at the very least, it is a mass dispel if on a 3 minute cooldown, but it still can provide some good healing. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's good. I don't think any healer's major raid cooldown is like super broken in Mythic Plus. I don't think that's the idea of it. This is supposed to be more a raid cooldown, but like I said, they have plenty of strong cooldowns in just these two. And then Phaline, just absolutely, you guys know this spell is amazing. A lot of people don't like it, and I do think it has to do with the visual effects. I've heard that a lot, and I wish that they would add a glyph into this to make it like green or like a mist. It is a 20-second cooldown. I mean, I'm not going to call it a cooldown, but this kind of is the segue into the next point, and that is our damage. Our damage is actually really solid. Now, we actually did see some changes to our damage numbers. So we did get a buff in the damage department, which then in turn, since we're Mistweaver, buffs our healing with things like ancient teachings. Now, Feline, with it being our main like play around, this is the totem that we stand by, basically, that we want to fight on. It lets us do a ton of damage as a healer because we're going to be doing passive damage. Our healing comes from standing on Spaline, that's probably a good name for it, but Feline, and spamming spinning crane kick. We do so much healing with Awakened Feline on AoE packs that while doing big damage. And then also with Zen Pulse, now this shift in talent location for Zen Pulse is a little weird. I've kind of talked in the past about why I think they did this, but it doesn't really change how Zen Pulse is. Zen Pulse does a big burst of AoE damage if you have a enveloping mist on them, and it didn't get buffed or anything, but it's still just looking like it's pumping. It's still worth taking this talent to do good damage, especially if you thunder focus to your enveloping mist. Then all of a sudden you're just pressing 2 global cooldowns to get this big double smack of AoE damage. But like I said, our damage is just very solid now because they did buff the damage of Rising Sun Kick recently, which I have been complaining about how Rising Sun Kick coming from Shadowlands into Dragonflight, when they spread out the Ancient Teachings healing, I complained that Rising Sun Kick didn't really have as much of a punch that it was packing anymore. However, now it does. I mean, I actually, with this buff, I do feel the change. It actually does, it moves health bars. It really does. It's only a minor buff, but it was just enough to get it like just insane. Now, Rising Sun Kick obviously is just our best button in all forms of content mainly, but just nowadays with Ancient Teachings, it really does top people up. If you're lucky enough to have 4 people fully healed and then using Rising Sun Kick, you can watch 1 health bar just absolutely smack up to the top. It's really good, and its damage is good. It helps our boss damage mainly, which our single target boss damage has felt pretty lackluster in seasons 1 and 2, but season 3 we're back more in the competitive sphere in terms of how much damage we do, which I know is not what a lot of people love to hear. A lot of people don't like doing damage, but we're playing Mistweaver. We are in there to just spinning crane kick and Rising Sun Kick, do big damage while also doing big green numbers, and that department is definitely looking good with this Rising Sun Kick change. And then next up, let's talk about some of the major changes, like the shifting, gameplay shifting changes that are coming in 10.2 and how they are affecting Mistweaver's viability, or how they move on that slider of viability due to these changes. And the first one that we have to mention is Expel Harm. Guys, if you have not had a chance to play with the new Expel Harm, one, I apologize. You really need to get on the PTR. Just go to my videos on my channel, type in PTR, and you can figure out how to play on the PTR very easily. And just come test this spell. It is so insane. It does so much healing. This spell, I mean, is so amazing and is causing such like an uproar outside of the Mistweaver community, or it did at least when it first was showcased, because a 550% buff is absolutely buck wild insane. Now, the talents did get scaled down because of such a massive buff coming into 10.2. However, they all just contribute to just it absolutely smacking your health bar. There have been instances in clips that I've posted in my recent videos of me going from like 5% health up to 100% health. You can very easily get this to hit you for about 700,000. I've seen screenshots of it hitting for 4 million healing, which is just insane. But I'm guessing that they use like GS, like Ret Aura, like a bunch of different things that like buff your healing in order to get that insane number. However, and like I'm sure there was an augmentation evoker involved and like a holy priest, but yeah, I mean, it just does such insane numbers. So when you talk about our weak defensives, when you talk about things that one-shot us, yes, if something's going to one-shot us, it still will. If something will one-shot us through one of our cooldowns, it still will, although we now mitigate 3% more. However, for anything that does not one-shot us, we are sitting pretty. I mean, hitting Expel Harm right after taking a massive chunk of damage will top you up. And if you have your Tierset on yourself, which is going to be the next thing that I'm going to talk about, if you have your Tierset on yourself, your Chi Harmony buff, if you Expel Harm, I just Expel Harm for 400,000, by the way, if you didn't see it flash up on the screen. Then this Expel Harm this Chi Harmony is going to pop, and it's going to distribute 15% of that healing to each other ally with Renewing Mist on them. So one of the big gameplay shifts is around this interaction, this Expel Harm and Chi Harmony interaction. So it's not much of an interaction except for the fact that Expel Harm does insane burst damage, which then gets stored in that bucket of our Chi Harmony and just redisperses like a big AoE heal once that Chi Harmony pops. So all in all, Expel Harm has added a lot more effective tankiness. Now, I hate using that word because it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't mitigate the incoming damage, but as long as you survive it, your effective health, your ability to top yourself up after taking a big slam of damage is a whole lot better, and it's on a 15-second cooldown. And then on top of that, if everyone's like full HP, the good thing about Chi Harmony, which is what we're going to be talking about next, our Tierset, is that it stores overhealing. So if I overheal myself with an Expel Harm for 400,000, then it's still going to store that. It's not just going to store the, like, if I only healed myself for 7,000, then the other 393,000 was overhealing. It wouldn't just store part of that 7,000. It would store part of the whole 400,000. So one of the big gameplay shifts is like on boss fights, for example, if you're low on cooldowns, if you need some help with the AoE healing, which nowadays you probably shouldn't with our great rotation cycle of our cooldowns and just the added bonus of our Chi Harmony, then what you can do is just Chi Harmony, Expel Harm. And then make sure that your other allies then get some Renewing Mist applied to them, or just Rising Sun Kick a few times in the next few seconds to spread out some Renewing Mist so that Chi Harmony has a place to distribute healing. But it will distribute so much healing, and it's just such a good gameplay shift. It's so good for us. I mean, this change fixed some of our big problems. Our inability to top ourselves up from 0 to full quickly is now gone. I mean, that is a problem of the past. Yes, ideally you want your Expel Harm to crit, but even when it doesn't, it still packs a punch. And then on top of that, our AoE healing outside of cooldowns on bosses specifically, because on AoE packs, Feline Stomp just, carries us, of course. But on AoE packs, it's not that much of an issue. But on boss fights, for example, Ancient Teachings is great. It really is. But now we have a buff in Rising Sun Kick, so Ancient Teachings is going to be even better in single target scenarios. And then this change to Expel Harm, bonused or tacked onto Chi Harmony, playing with those together is just going to help our AoE healing a ton, and has. Like, I've been playing boss fights. If they don't one-shot you, they're kind of a joke, but that kind of is a PTR thing. I've heard a lot of feedback about PTR, and it's kind of like things either one-shot you or they just don't do a lot of damage, and I've kind of noticed that. But for things that we survive, things that don't one-shot us, Expel Harm is absolutely the champion of. This spell is amazing. It works well with our Tierset. Now let's strictly talk about our Tierset. It's very good. I think I'm lagging out. Yeah, I feel like I just lagged out. I'm glad I caught that on camera. But our Tierset is very good. Now, we thought that this would be like even better than it was coming in, or at least I did. And I heard a lot of rumblings about how this Tierset was going to be broken for Mythic Plus. And now that they've added Awakened Feline, Ancient Teachings, like all the sources that they needed to add to Chi Harmony, it is a lot better. But it's just bonus healing. It's not any game-changing amount of healing. It's not like the Guardian Druids thing that's going to basically top up your whole party every couple of seconds because they spin a bunch of rage. I mean, it is just passive added healing that we're getting, but it's not like game-breaking. It's not making us broken. It's just adding a lot more safety to the party, and it just adds a lot more AoE healing now that we have. So just amazing throughput coming from Mistweaver in 10.2. And then our Tierset just adds so much throughput. I mean, you make sure that you have a Renewing Mist and an Enveloping Mist on your tank. They are not dying once again unless things one-shot them. You do so much spot healing. And that takes me to our final major change that is gameplay changing, that is a huge bonus for us, and that is our spot healing, or just our healing buffs. If you don't know, we received spot healing buffs, or just healing buffs, to Soothing Mist by 40%, Enveloping Mist by 25%, and vivifies direct healing by 30%. So if you Soothing Mist, Enveloping Mist, and then Vivify your tank, it will now top them up so much faster because they are receiving so much more healing now from that 3-punch combo. Now, yes, it's still that in particular would take 3 global cooldowns to do, but even if you just pair a Soothing Mist with a Vivify, you're just getting so much more healing now than you were in 10.1.7, so you really feel that. Now, since we're talking about Mythic Plus specifically, you have 5 targets to heal, whereas in Raid you have 20, so topping up one person, your spot healing in Mythic Plus, is so important, so much more important or valuable than in Raid, since you're healing 20% as opposed to 5% of the effective health of the entire group. So all in all, these heals changes, these healing number tweaks are amazing, like absolutely amazing for our spot healing. Whenever we have to stop spinning crane kicking, we can top someone up and then get back to spinning crane kicking way faster now. So all in all, it has felt amazing. These changes, you really feel just how much more you heal. And that kind of sounded corny, but also they have buffed Invigorating Mist. Now this is what causes our Renewing Mists to cleave. It's buffed as a whole by 25%. So the amount that you're going to cleave onto other allies that have Renewing Mist, which with our new playstyle or with our new tier set, you now want to just make sure there's always at least one Renewing Mist. Instead of like just spinning crane kick spamming, you at least want one Renewing Mist to catch all the Cheat Harmony healing. But Invigorating Mist will just heal so much more. It just helps your AoE healing even more on top of your tier set, on top of everything. Your AoE healing is just getting bumped up a little bit further. And now the one downside to this change is that it was nerfed beyond 5 targets. But guys, we're in Mythic Plus. We have 5 targets. If anything, this is great. Even one thing that I was worried about is if you had a pet. Say you had a pet that called a Renewing Mist, or you accidentally Renewing Mist, and you're worried if now you're at 6 targets. Well, if you spot heal your tank, you heal yourself in the 3 DPS and accidentally cleave onto the pet as well, that's still 5 targets. So all in all, just Invigorating Mist seeing a buff, all of our spot healing seeing a buff, on top of our tier set just adding a lot more healing, and us being slightly tankier but having a great, I guess, after damage defensive. It's not a defensive because it doesn't mitigate the damage. It adds effective health after the fact. Expel Harm is what I'm talking about. The massive Expel Harm changes on top of the tier set, once again, all in all, just compiles together to make these changes amazing, and it is looking like a great season for Mistweaver. Now, do I predict them to be at the top tippity top of the meta? I don't know. I would have to get more testing in with all the other healers. I've tested Disc Priest a lot and they also feel pretty good, but as far as Mistweaver goes, you would not feel bad taking your Mistweaver and maining it this season. So all in all, these changes, everything coming into to 10.2, if I had to rate it out of 10, personally in Mythic Plus, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. If we were to look at some of the things that they still might have as issues, they're a lot more minor. They are definitely taking steps in those directions in the right way. So all in all, these changes are just great. They are some things that we have needed. I mean, the spot healing buffs, the cleave healing, our tier set is working very well with Mythic Plus. Expel Harm actually getting some love. Now, Healing Elixir is something that I did not talk about because just like in this video, it is just a passive thing happening in the background. So it's kind of hard to gauge its power, but it's a lot weaker. But when you look at Expel Harm, it is such a great replacement for Healing Elixir that, yeah, it's not even worth mentioning Healing Elixir. But all in all, it is a 10 out of 10 for 10.2 for Mistweaver. So do not be afraid to main your Mistweavers in 10.2. Guys, my name is ElbinNinja7. I am the Mistweaver guy. I love this class. I have a passion for this class. And I know it might sound like I'm biased, but this is gonna be a great tier for Mistweaver. So stay tuned for a lot more Mistweaver videos, a lot of guides, a lot of other healer videos. I've been playing a lot more healers, and now that I have a lot more time to do so, thanks to you guys, I'm doing that, and I'm really enjoying it. But guys, if you want to support this channel, there are so many ways to do so, but the free ways, the easy ways are liking and subscribing. So if you like this video, hit that button. It shows me and YouTube that you like my content, you want more people to see it. And then if you like me as a person, or just like my content, hit subscribe. It helps me out a ton on my journey to making my dreams come true, but it also will just make sure that you see my future content. And then if you really want to go the extra mile, then follow these guys' footsteps. These are my Patreons, and I do have that link down in the description. Shout out to these guys. Thank you so much for helping this channel in the way that you do. You are amazing, and you can join them. Just check out that link. And yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope that this gives you hope. Us Mistweavers, we like to inhale copium, but we also are pretty big doomers, doom and gloomers. So I hope this gives you hope for the future. We are looking great. These changes are all amazing, and I'm excited. I hope that you guys are too. Let me know down in the comments below if you plan on playing Mistweaver. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, take care.